Well, with the spring heat, a lot of snowpack has really been melting the last couple of days.
And while rivers are getting higher, most major rivers in Minnesota are staying below flood stage. Rob Olson joins us live from Stillwater now, as the governor, Rob, shared a message today for communities that could see some of these impacts from flooding.
Yeah, and that message is, at this point, it appears that everybody is ready. Positions or supplies and materials are in place to respond. The variable here, though, is any additional snowpack melting, any change in that up north, and any rainfall that could happen. Here in Stillwater, for example, this is forecast to come up to right at major flood stage. So about the bottom of the lift bridge behind me, up to the preparations that are in place. But again, they're keeping a close eye on everything in case those variables send rivers higher than they expect.
This one we have peaking just at the threshold for a major flood.
With a 2,000-foot berm in place, Stillwater's been ready for flooding ahead of the game because of the initial slow snowmelt. But now the St. Croix is set to peak at a major flood stage next week, and if they need to add to what's in place remains an unknown.
Again, given the snowmelt upstream across Wisconsin, that could go higher, especially if we get any additional heavy rains.
At a briefing in St. Paul, the message here is, in addition to the rapid snowmelt, the variable they worry about is any potential for rain in the next week. The Army Corps of Engineers has already been working with emergency managers to prepare and says they've placed supplies near rivers in Minnesota and North Dakota.
We have flood fight materials pre-positioned where we think they're most likely to be needed. We are ready to provide assistance if called on, sir.
Among the rivers that are being watched very closely, the Crow River. This is what it looks like in downtown Delano right now, and it's forecast to peak this weekend into early next week. The Mississippi River in St. Paul is set to peak next week as well, and the city on Friday will close Lilydale Road and some park areas along the river. As all these rivers are being watched closely, the plea for people is to not drive around the barriers and do not go into any floodwaters.
Please do not drive or swim or float in flooded rivers. We've had several events over the last couple days where we had to rescue people that were in rivers. Please turn around, don't drown.
Now, the other rivers that they're keeping an eye on, but again, they come later in the timeline here, the Rainy River to the northeast part of Minnesota and the Red River Valley in northwestern Minnesota, because of the snowpack there still melting. Those are a couple of weeks off. And say at this point, they believe they should be in a good position too, but again, keeping an eye on a lot of the variables at how fast that melts, any rainfall. And again, here, it's forecast to just hit right at that major flood stage level, just below it perhaps. But again, just being cautious in case they need to react quickly for changes. Live in Stillwater, Rob Olson, Fox 9.
All right, thank you, Rob.